Hello, everyone. My name is Zeph, and welcome to the Star Network podcast. Today, we have a special guest with us, Yinka Adewuyi, who's the co-founder and CEO of GoLemon. Hi, Yinka. It's great to have you on the show today.
Hi. Really nice to be here. I'm good to see you.
Good to see you. I feel like there've been a couple back and forths, but we made it finally.
Yes, I'm happy.
Great.
I'm happy.
I think we should address the elephant in the room. So, fun fact, Yinka and I actually worked together at Paystack. We were colleagues before he ventured into building GoLemon.
Yes.
And before I ventured into the Star Network podcast.
All right.
So this is really great to have you on the show
Yes,
for you to tell your story.
It is. And I haven't seen you in, I don't know, maybe 2 years?
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Or 3 years or so.
Yes.
Before we kick off, do you want to tell us a bit about what GoLemon is?
GoLemon is I'd say a tech startup that delivers groceries to Nigerian homes and businesses. The way to look at it is that we're building the infrastructure for food delivery and grocery delivery in Nigeria.
Amazing. Okay, so simply put, online groceries.
Yep.
Okay, I like that concept because sometimes I get very stressed out about having to run errands and then add grocery shopping to the list. So it's nice to know that I can just sit in my house, go online, an app actually, and then order my groceries straight to my door. Okay, I want you to tell us what specific problem are you trying to solve when you thought this is such a great idea to be built? Was it from a COVID era? What made you think this is a product to be built? What were you trying to solve?
It's a combination of a few things. There was a trigger point, and then some things became obvious as we started to discover. The trigger point for me was, obviously I was a Paystack, and I had access to, payment data. At some point, Paystack was processing, I think, 1 out of every 3 online transactions in Nigeria. What I saw at the time was that for the most part, a lot of that digital payments was largely in services. So in payment-like services, in betting, in lending, in savings, and there was very little representation of digital commerce. At the time that I was at Paystack, we're seeing a lot of people every year pay for the first time, use their card for the first time, millions of Nigerians every year. So I guess the point is that a lot of people were getting comfortable with paying online. And even though grocery represents 50% of Nigerian household spend, a lot of that was still happening offline, right? So the opportunity there seemed obvious, which was that if a lot of people were already getting comfortable paying online, and 50% of what they spend when they earn is on food and groceries. So it's just the remaining 50% that you're paying online. The comfort was there already. The familiarity was there. It seemed like a great opportunity to capture that large portion of people spending in their already familiarity or adoption of digital payments. And I think that was the trigger point.
Amazing. I like how your work experience was able to give you that insight. And sometimes when people go into entrepreneurship, they kind of despise the early beginnings, but it's so clear that in your role as data product manager as well, you're able to look at the industry as a whole and say this is actually something that we can key into. What I also find interesting about what you said is that you notice 50% of people's savings, earnings, etc. is on groceries, but it's not done online. Right. And I think that's just more of a cultural mindset with most Nigerians. I think that especially food is such a sensitive thing, right? So I guess in building that trust that you can actually pay online and the person bringing it to you will give you exactly what you ordered. But I'm quite curious to sort of know what patterns have you been able to identify within GoLemon that you usually would not have seen if you weren't on the back end. So obviously you can see when people are placing orders. What patterns have been quite interesting to notice in Nigeria consumer spending behavior when it comes to online shopping?
To be honest, it's many things. It's been 2 years now. So it's many things that I would say I have noticed, but something that comes to mind now would be the extent to which grocery on the consumer side and on the business side is a replenishment business, right? And what that means is that up to 80% of people stuff at the same thing and repeatedly, right? So what that means again is that about 80% of what people buy for groceries are the same thing across board. The same things repeatedly. They'll come this month, they'll come next month, they'll buy the same thing. What that does is that it allows to it shapes like the way that you think about building the business, right? And I think that's one of the most exciting thing. I mean, in hindsight, when you think about it, it feels like the most obvious thing that people will buy. I don't know, the same thing on, like, I guess maybe finished food and clothes. But I think for grocery, looking back and seeing to the degree at which like everybody are buying the same thing. A lot of people are buying very similar detergents to wash their clothes and very similar spaghetti to cook. And it's just the same thing. It helps to bring focus and clarity into how you think about the business and how you think about even building the product. Considering that we're using tech, typically many e-commerce default to building their storefront or their shop as a place where you come to discover, like browse through things for fun. But unlike that, for grocery, it is that people are coming to buy the things that they know, right? So you use that insights and then you integrate it into like business efficiency. It helps to shape how you think about the business. And that is, I think, one of the most important things that we sort of validated. We had the assumption, I think, to the degree at which people were buying the same thing became a bit more obvious in the early days for us. And that has shaped that is the foundation of how we build or have built GoLemon so far. Use all of that insights and information into things like forecasting, because you know that people's shopping, buying patterns don't change as much. So you use that to also optimize the supply chain in the background, even the product in itself. That's why GoLemon is built around, for example, list shopping, because the average person, again, because the items that they buy don't change often, it means that they shop from a list. The things are static, they're the same thing. So when they come, they're not trying to go through a large listing to look for new things to buy. So the GoLemon experience is designed around come, the 80% of the things that you buy repeatedly are there for you. Then you then change the 10% of things that you need per time that is different from that list. And that's how you read. I think so. I think that's the one thing that comes to mind. I think it's a very interesting thing that at least has shaped the way that we've thought about.
And that's pretty interesting because I was actually going to add in a question on AI integration. And I think what you've just said pretty much answers it. It seems like GoLemon is very intuitive to already capture what people's patterns are when it comes to grocery shopping. So for instance, if I am buying, I don't know, I like pasta and I like pasta meatballs for simplicity, and the app notices, okay, Zeph is always ordering this same ingredient every month, so the next time I go in, it's already pre-saved that list, and then I can just tweak one or two things. Is that AI integration, or is there going to be another layer of like AI integration?
So first is that the way that we design the experience using the context that I shared is without in the consumer understanding of AI, is without that foundation. But I think that the way that Nigerians shop, the way that people shop, allows for clarity in the integration of AI, at least for us. Because again, the foundation of how we build is designed around repeat purchase, same purchase for the most part. Part of the things that in the way that we think about AI is using AI as a helpful tool to starting that journey like very quickly. So the first time that you come, can we know a bit more about you to sort of inform the things that we know that you would buy? Can you interact in a way that the journey to placing your first order and the next order is just very simple, especially considering that for grocery, for the most part, people's needs don't change. And it's the same thing. So I think, again, the foundation is right there in the way that we thought about it. AI will help us amplify, execute even more exciting touch points for people to mostly get started very quickly, especially with adopting tech for buying groceries and then their repeat purchases. And we can also introduce the light to it because people's minds can then be blown by things that we can use to do sitting on top of the same foundation that we have built the product on.
Amazing. So I'm excited to see how that like pans out. I will say I am still very much traditional with grocery shopping. Obviously, I downloaded the GoLemon app and I think I was like, this is brilliant. But then it's so weird because when it comes to food, like, oh, I want to get takeout, I think I just do it. But I sort of then assume with groceries, oh, are they really going to pick the right things that I want? Or if I say I want to get like broccolis, will they just pick random broccolis? But it seems like you've built such a very strong system of, quality, and people trust GoLemon to deliver. I remember someone on my team, when they saw that you were the next guest coming up, the person said, oh, what are we doing with GoLemon? And I was like, we're interviewing GoLemon. It's like, oh, you know GoLemon? I was like, I know the founder. Yeah. But that excitement, because she uses the product and she can trust the product, I think that's a testament to the work that you're doing. But I'm very curious to sort of also know, like, along your value chain, you have to connect with like your wholesalers, right? How easy was that process? Like, how did that work? Because I kind of assume that's kind of like a lot of hard work. It's like going to the farmers to say, oh, give me like a chunk of kale or broccoli. How does that work? And I don't know whether to even go deeper from an economic perspective, like when there's food inflation, for instance, right? How does that feed into like GoLemon's pricing system on the app as well? How are you connecting to the farmers? How are you getting things from the farms? If there's like insecurity, I'm just curious how that wholesaling connection along the value chain works.
To be very honest, it's difficult. A lot more difficult than you would imagine. A lot more difficult, even for us getting into the business and the evolution through the business. And what is most difficult is that the Nigerian, let's think of a sauce. So part of GoLemon's offering is low price, because we think that that's price is such a sensitive, important value in the Nigerian context. For the most part, we're poor people. So the average Nigerian person does not put as much premium over time, convenience, as much as they do on like price, right? So part of how we build GoLemon is trying to collapse the supply chain such that the touch points from the source to the end is as short as possible, where we can then maximize and get profit, but for the customer, it means low price. Now, for us, back to the challenge with connecting with large manufacturers and producers, and for us to be able to achieve low prices, you want to go, again, as close to the source as possible. So for fresh produce, that is the farms. For, packaged essentials, that is maybe manufacturers or main importers or suppliers. But for them, it's a business of volume. So when you start the business, they ask you, where's your volume? And then for you, you need that connection early to be able to get demand, or drive demand. So it's like a chicken and egg situation where, which comes first? You need those type of partnerships to be able to drive demand by offering low price. The businesses or the partners need that demand to come first, for them to be able to offer products to you. So you find a lot of them with very high MOQ requirements for you to get started. And that's where you have to now start to be creative, start to think of exciting ways to drive confidence and trust with these partners, because on the ground level, they're not going to roll out red carpet for you because you have some exciting vision to change how grocery commerce happens in this part of the world. For them, it's money for hand, back for ground, or how they say it. So I think those are some of like the challenges that we face, and the challenges we evolve through them. But the requirement is that because there's clarity for us on what the opportunities are, what the mission is. What it does, it challenges us to think of very creative, smart ways to build that trust early. And figure out, and I guess maybe the advantage of that is that when we go through that process over time, that indeed is our own moats, because when you build all of that, it is hard to replicate. It takes a long time to build all that level of partnership, of collaboration with partners. And then when you hit that, you then start to think around efficiency, like efficient systems, and so on.
Now, that's very interesting. And I like that you said it is something that still remains a challenge and it's quite difficult. And I think that's just the journey with entrepreneurship. Like, it just doesn't come easy. I was talking to a friend recently and I was saying how I now understand when they say entrepreneurship can be quite lonely, which is a bit weird because you have teams and you have the support. But, when you have the vision and you wear that hat, it is incredibly a lonely space. But I think you've been able to identify, okay, this is how we're going to work with these partners. This is what we need to do to, be sustainable and make sure that it's not affecting our value, which is pricing. So well done. And I'm sure it's something you guys are going to keep figuring out. But even speaking on partners, a very recent announcement is your collaboration with Chowdeck, which I think also is really cool because the founder of Chowdeck, Femi, also is ex Paystack who works with us as well. So yeah, shout out to Paystack people. But what is really cool about it is that when I saw it, I was like, I like this. And I liked it from the point of two founders who are running a startup business, seeing that we are actually stronger together when we collaborate. And one, both of you have logistics end to end, so to speak. You have your groceries, your fresh produce. He has the quick restaurants, pick up food, etc. How has this partnership worked for GoLemon operationally? What has been the benefit of this, and what made you decide this was the path that you wanted to go on? I think it's actually quite something to applaud that both of you saw yourselves as partners as opposed to, oh, we're both going to like compete this out. Like, of course, in a friendly way. I think that's a very strong message to send within like the startup ecosystem.
Yeah. The perception of competition, especially in emerging markets, is sometimes like a bit immature. And that's because in even more advanced and mature markets, you find collaboration as like a very important ingredient to growth or to even innovation. You find that Samsung supplies Apple their screens and Google has a collaboration with Apple, even though to the consumer you think of them as competitors. GoLemon and Chowdeck have been fundamentally people that are trying to, like, we're very aligned on mission, right? Which is to change the landscape of digital commerce or just commerce in this part of the world where we live. And ideally, when you bring over the years that Chowdeck has existed, they have grown to become the biggest and most efficient at scale last mile logistics delivery business. So when you think about, and in the history of humans, collaboration is how you drive innovation. And this is the way to look at it. The opportunity that exists, if you think about it, like less than 1% of commerce happen online. Overwhelmingly, a lot of people still purchase and buy things that they need offline, in person. So what it means is that between Chowdeck, with GoLemon, with all of the people that are potentially playing this, we cannot be competing against a pie that is so huge. When what the work is to convince and make consumers win at the end of the day. And how do consumers win? You take the best of this and you mix it with the best of this to give the best version of the experience that you want for the customers. And that's the way that we think. There's alignment for us in mission, in the sense that commerce is what we think that there's a very strong, that's the future of Nigeria. A lot of people spend a lot of time on their phones, paying online. The culture is already shifting. And we want to be there. We are here to lead that cultural shift. And what better way to do it than to bring the best of this world, which is Chowdeck being the king of last mile delivery, and all of the expertise that they've built. And you bring GoLemon, the infrastructure of grocery commerce, because we're not building an app for delivering foods, we're building the infrastructure for food distribution and grocery distribution in this part of the world. So when you bring that and when you bring this and you bring it together, at the end of the day, the customer gets the perfect experience. If we have a chance to convince one person to move from buying things offline to buying online, how you do that is by giving them the best of everything at once. And that's how we thought about it.
Honestly, that's just brilliant. And I like what really resonated with me, and I think will resonate with the audience, is you said, first of all, your mission is 100% aligned. And I think that's a lesson for people who are looking for partners and they say, I just don't know where to begin, or what is sort of the benchmark that I look at. Sometimes something looks good, but do you have completely different missions, even in terms of like your value principles or where you see yourself going in 5 to 10 years? If the answer is no, it looks good, but it doesn't work for you. I also like that you've thought about the customer. So given this customer like holistic basket of, you don't just, I'm assuming like if I go on Chowdeck now, now, what I will see is GoLemon options for groceries. So my order doesn't just stop at, oh, I'm trying to order like a burger from X restaurant, but I can also simultaneously do my groceries, and there's GoLemon at the back end that's driving that. That for me, I'm extremely comfortable. And for you as a business person, you're also getting sort of like your numbers coming in because the customers are also feeding into your online and vice versa. So I think it's great. Speaking on partnerships and collaboration, it's also really cool, your founding team. I just kind of feel like I'm going into Paystack so much. But Yinka's founding team is actually ex-Paystack managers as well. It's 4 of you who left to do this. But I won't touch too much on it because I think it's clear from everything that you said in having people that think in a very similar pattern to you and see a problem to solve. I'm guessing that's why 4 of you came together. You can't touch on it if there was like a pivotal moment that made you guys decide, look, guys, let's jump on it. And it is you 4 people. Because why that 4? Why that 4 people specifically? That's one. But I'm curious, when GoLemon started in 2023, right? The big houses like Bolt Foods, Jumia Foods were also shutting down their operations. Did that in any way sort of put a question mark into what GoLemon was building? And did it sort of encourage you to say, they tried it didn't work, but I'm wearing a different hat and I think I can actually solve this problem? How is GoLemon designed to sort of withstand the risk and the challenges that those business operations have faced, because they were quite massive?
On the question you just asked, food delivery and food delivery and grocery delivery, they seem similar on the surface, on a high level, but they're fundamentally different. And I'll delve into some of that differences that also informs how GoLemon is, again, as similar as it is to like Bolt Food or Jumia Food. It is different. And that is primarily because we think that, and I can't speak too much into the business and the things that didn't work or the challenges that those businesses face. But from the side of the spectrum that we are, what you see with food delivery is that you're exposed to a lot of diversity or variety in consumer preference and choice. So food delivery is the food delivery is very complex, a lot more complex, not because grocery delivery is not as complex, but the nuance here, or the unique thing that differentiates them is that for food delivery, the consumer has like very diverse needs. There are potentially maybe 500 different ways to cook jollof rice. And the customer's need is always very different. I might want to eat this type of jollof rice today and a different type of jollof rice tomorrow. So for food delivery, their business is naturally designed around being a marketplace because they want to get as many options and variety for customers as possible. So the engine that powers that is significantly complex. For grocery delivery, of course, aside from the infrastructural limitations that we have as a people, as a nation or a society, there's a lot more predictability, organization in the supply chain that powers grocery delivery, because Indomie is Indomie if you buy it here or there or there. So the options for groceries are a bit more, are not as diverse as it is with food. And that is why the opportunity with grocery delivery with GoLemon is building a very efficient supply chain in the background. Because again, like I hinted before, people's needs are a lot more consistent, are a lot more static, and not as changing for groceries as it is with food. So the challenges and the opportunities with grocery delivery is, in my opinion, slightly different from what it was at the time, what it is with food, with the Bolt Food, with the Jumia Food. And that's why for us, the work is very clear. It is that we build a very efficient system in the background that is very, so we're using a lot of data. We're gathering a lot of data in predicting and forecasting what people need, because we can tell, and we have some data that we've collected on how people shop, and it's not as diverse. The options that we provide for spaghetti is not as never ending as it be with food, and so on. That's one side to look at it. I think timing is also something that a lot of people reference, and I believe as well. I think if you compare on the basis of, I guess, commerce generally, I think over the years, before, during, and after those businesses existed in this, like here, digital payment adoption has also significantly grown. Trust has grown. So I think that, and familiarity has also grown. So I think maybe it's also one way to look at it as well. It's not that those businesses didn't do well. It's a timing thing. And they've sort of like laid groundwork for a lot of businesses like them that will come now and in the future to sort of benefit from a lot of the work that they've done. But that's the way that I look at like them and us and the opportunity that is in front of us, and how we see the business.
Amazing. And last questions. In your first 4 months, you hit 150 million naira. I think we saw that somewhere online. Was that a shock to you? Or was that like a huge target?
It was a shock. It's always been a shock. I find myself to be very lucky, and GoLemon to be. When I started, GoLemon launched in 2024. And when I started GoLemon a year prior to the official launch, we were doing a lot of research work and testing, and a lot of that testing and work that we're doing were for our friends, my family, and delivering groceries to them. I was going to the market myself after work, packaging their orders in my kitchen, and sending to them. So at the time that GoLemon officially launched, it was largely us still building the products for our friends and our family. And that's the way that we have thought about it. GoLemon is first a product that serves me as a person, before all of the potential users that can use it. And that's the way that we thought about it. So yes, our journey, our growth, has been very largely organic, surprising, exciting. But again, at the start, it was that we were building for our immediate friends. We had like about 10, 20, 30 people that were friends that were very invested in, and committed to, but also excited by the idea of us delivering their groceries to them. And we used a lot of that to learn, and continue to iterate the product, but also the system that powers that in the background. So when GoLemon went live, I was expecting my friends to continue using it, and the people that were serving before. And GoLemon's journey has been largely built on top of that base, because in the 2 years that we have operated, very barely have we done any marketing. GoLemon's growth has been from that group of friends and their friends and their friends and their family. I remember in the very early days, I used to know like 90% of the people, like the names of the customers who placed their orders. And then I remember when I started to see names that I didn't know, names that I'd never seen before, and so on and so forth. And that's how the journey has been, and how we've been taken through it. So yes, surprised, yes, excited, yes, but it's been mostly organic in that sense.
What role do you hope GoLemon will take in building Nigeria's economy? What does the future of GoLemon look like? And I know you've really touched about it. It's really about commerce, because you said that that's where the success is for a country, advanced economies, everything is done online. So is that the end goal for GoLemon, to really be that e-commerce business that is helping to the growth of the Nigerian economy?
Correct. Yes. It is that I hope that at some point, our dreams are very huge. My dreams are very big. But if I would summarize, it would be that I want GoLemon to be like a part of how food and essentials like flow through here, right? And when I say here, I mean Nigeria and Africa at large. And we want to be part of that very core, exciting infrastructure that allows for very easy movement of food, distribution, groceries, essentials in this part of the world. We want to be able to bring local businesses online, give them scale, give them distribution. Because again, for the most part, a lot of people spend what they earn on food and groceries. So the opportunity is there for us, but we want to be a part of that cultural shift, that evolution. At some point soon, I want GoLemon to go through everybody's house or business one way or the other, either directly or indirectly.
Amazing. I don't know why I'm sensing that if I'm craving something from Ghana, very soon I can go on GoLemon and get the delivery. I'm getting excited. Let me know. Just as you are speaking, I just saw it. Or if there's like a particular delicacy, like in Senegal, I can actually go on the app and order, and it's going to come to my house. Is it safe to say this now? Okay, good. Yes. Okay, good. I think that's exciting for a lot of people. Because I think there are a lot of young people that are really going into startup businesses when it comes to African nutrition. And what I mean by that is that core ingredients like fonio. I discovered fonio very recently last year, and fonio is actually like a superfood. It's a grain that is sort of, I think, indigenous to us. So just like how there's like couscous and quinoa, which you kind of know is like, I'm guessing from the West. I'm not a nutrition expert, so I may be wrong in where the sources are from. However, I learned that fonio, you can get that indigenously here. And I started integrating fonio into my diet, and it's a huge substitute for me and my household as opposed to just eating rice, right? Which I don't really like all the time. But this has been so great for nutrition, something light. It has so many antioxidants. It's a great superfood. So I'm excited to hear this. I think that there's a huge gap in that space that a lot of young people are like keen into. So I'm excited to see it happen. And when it does, we'll talk more. We'll talk more. Okay, so closing question. If there is something you could improve in the way that we live in the world today, what would it be and why?
I'll rephrase and maybe put it in the local context, being Africa. If it's something that I'll change about the continent, or I don't know, maybe the world as well, but through the continent, is to increase or improve like systems. I think there's a lot of talent, ideas. There's a lot of people, obviously, but when you go from one country to the other, in my time, especially through tech, I've been lucky to interact with really smart people, really exciting people. But a lot of the limitations that we have as a people or a continent is that the systems are missing. Like the infrastructure that allows us to build on top of are missing. So many times a lot of people are building the systems when we should be building on top of systems. And it's very distracting, and it's also why we might be playing catch up on a lot of things, including the quality of life, including a proximity or how close we are to meet some in some other place. So I think that if there's one thing that I'll change about the world or about Africa, is that we start to think and build systems and infrastructure that allows us to sort of catch up with the rest of the world, that allows the talent and the people and all the brains that we have to shine. Because when you think about what GoLemon is building, for example, if we do our jobs well, and then if you think about other people build in similar or related essential parts of how we live in healthcare, in school, there's so much more that we can, in education, there's so much more that we can do, but the systems are missing, such that a lot of us are spending a lot of time finding ways around, as well as attempting to build systems that really should exist. So I think that's one thing that I would introduce a change.
That's a fantastic answer, and I like that you restructured it. Yinka, it's been so much fun having you on the show. It's so great to hear personally more about GoLemon, and I'm sure people who listen to this episode will be like, okay, if I haven't used this, I'm on it. And people who use it will be like, yay, we actually get to hear from the founder. So great to have you. Thank you so much. So guys, you've heard from Yinka of GoLemon. If you'd love to hear more about what GoLemon does, follow the handles. Yinka, what's the handle for GoLemon?
GoLemon HQ everywhere.
Awesome. So guys, you've heard it. And if you would love to learn more about the Star Network podcast, what we do, you're interested in our next guest, don't forget to follow us on our social media handles at the Star Network pod. Just hit the subscribe button below. Also, we've been launching a lot of exciting products beyond just interviews. We now offer masterclasses. Stay tuned on our page to learn about what we did with our AI masterclass and upcoming events for 2026. That's it for now. Until next time. Bye.